Hello there. Today I'm going to be showing you my layered card using masking, and I'm going to be using this stamp set from the August Hero Arts My Monthly Hero Kit. It was nice and coffee themed, and I do have my coffee there. That's kind of my traditional crafting coffee mug, my Beavis and Butthead. I'm going to make a card for my husband today, so we're going to take out my Simon Says stamp masking paper, and I'm going to stamp out the images that I want to use as a stamp. I was quasi-inspired by a card that I saw on Pinterest that actually wasn't coffee themed, it was tea themed. I think it was an Alice in Wonderland Tea Party themed card that I had seen. I thought I could kind of make my own version, but with coffee, and then that would be fun. So I'm selecting the stamps that I want to use for my coffee. I'm going to have them all stacked up in a corner on my card, and I'm just going to stamp each of the images out with some Ranger Archival ink, just because that's what I had on hand. I'm just stamping out some masks. So I'm not really looking for a perfect stamp here, just something that I can stamp and cut. I will end up skipping a good portion of this footage. It's fairly cut and dry. Just stamp, and then I'm going to fussy cut them out, and I will skip most of the fussy cutting footage as well. This video is already running on the long side, and I chose to cut some of the repetitive things out. And also, I should probably point out that I am an exceedingly slow crafter anyway. It can take me hours to complete one card. Not only am I slow, but I usually have like music playing, or I am listening to a show or a podcast or something, and I'm not 100% focused on one or the other. I take my time and I enjoy the process. With these process videos, I tend to do it with my camera running above my head. Anyway, so I'm going to end up fussy cutting all of these out. I'm using my little DoCraft non-stick scissors to fussy cut. I'm not super pleased with them. I do plan to upgrade to the Hero Arts not Hero Arts, the Tim Holtz mini snips that I've heard a lot of good things about. I just haven't gotten around to actually doing that yet. So I'm taking just a regular 4.25 by 4.25 by 5.5 size piece of paper here, and I'm going to just play around a little bit with positioning where I want things. Like I said, this is going to be a kind of one layered. It ends up being something that I mat behind another piece of cardstock, but a one layer watercolored card. And I just kind of wanted to figure out my positioning here to mask things off. Now, the key to the masking, at least the way that I do it, is to work kind of the opposite what your instincts tell you. So you work from front to back. So in my front, I want that little teacup thing. So I want to make sure that I'm stamping and then masking that one off first. That way that one is entirely preserved as the front image. And then I just work back from there. The cups that I want slightly behind that, I will stamp in the second round, and then the third round, and so on and so forth. I'm stamping with some Versamark, and I'm going to heat emboss with, I think it's some platinum embossing powder, because I am going to do a little watercoloring for this. It's going on watercolor paper. I use Canson XL cold press watercolor paper. It's perhaps not the greatest on the market, but I do like it very much. I buy it in bulk when it goes on sale. I buy 3 to 4 different packs of it and stock up, and I usually have them pre-cut down to size. Easier to work with. So I've just heat embossed that cup in the Ranger Platinum embossing powder, and now I'm going to take my mask off, and I'm going to carefully place my mask over that so that it protects the image underneath, and I can stamp right over top of it to give the impression of cups that are directly behind it, and don't have to worry about protecting that. Now I believe that I do, because this is the whole reason for the video, is my masking. I believe that I do leave all of the masking footage in here. And it is sped up, unfortunately, as far as I can go. I'm editing my videos on my iPhone, and I can only go, I think it's 2 times faster, which is unfortunate. I do have video editing software on my computer, but I haven't been able to figure it out. Having some more coffee. Ironically, as I'm doing this voiceover, it's about 5 a.m. I have a cup of coffee as well. I've been up since 1. I'm an insomniac, getting stuff done. Liking our new apartment, I have the freedom. This new apartment is bigger than the house that we were renting. We just moved last month because of just the space and the separation from the living spaces from the bedrooms here. I can do a lot more when I can't sleep, so I don't have to worry about waking my family up. My husband's already gone for work, but my daughter's still sleeping. So here I am just heat embossing that second layer, and then I'm going to mask over that so that I can put another layer of cups technically on top of that, but visually it will look like it is behind that when I remove the masks. I don't do enough projects like this, and I really should. I did find this whole process really relaxing. And here we are with the masks. Don't worry, I will fast forward through most of, or I should say cut out large chunks of most of the rest of the process. But like I said, because this video was something that I wanted to do to really show off how I do my masking and stamping, I thought it was important to preserve this in its entirety. You can certainly feel free to skip through this part if you pretty much figured out what I was going for. And if you have any questions or whatnot, you can certainly reach out to me as well. And heat embossing the next layer here. Just dusting off a little stray powder. And then we will mask that. Those are my little whipped cream toppings that I thought I was going to use to mask off, and I ended up not masking them off because I decided to heat emboss the whipped cream on in the last stage, which we will get to, but you can see those little whipped cream masks up in the top right hand corner. I don't end up using those. But while I was stamping them out, I stamped them out anyway. So I've just covered that up, and now I am positioning and heat embossing the last cup for the background there. This is the tall frozen latte mug, I guess you could say. Lattes are my favorite. I like iced lattes. I live in New England here, where Dunkin' Donuts, or as it's just going to be called Dunkin', soon enough, is quite popular, and I'm a big fan of their iced lattes. Highly addictive. So I put the mask on top of that cup as well because I'm going to be doing a technique for my background, and I didn't want it to get onto my cups here. I made a little bit of a smudge, so I'm just cleaning it up with my plastic eraser. Different than the sand eraser in that it's not grinding away a subtle layer of the paper, it's actually erasing it. I believe engineers use it a lot for blueprints and stuff. So I'm going to do some background watercolor painting, and I'm using Distress Oxide inks today for watercoloring, and I do apologize for that horrible glare. That is the sun coming in from the window that is immediately to my left, and I do have the blinds closed when I do this. It's so bright. Our blinds are not not the greatest at blocking out the sun. They're more for just blocking out prying eyes now that we live in an apartment on the corner of 2 streets. We do technically have curtains coming. Actually, even as of this voiceover, the curtains aren't here yet. Still waiting on curtains. Hopefully soon, but they're nice light blocking curtains. So I'm just taking some clean tap water, and I'm using a Royal Inlang Nickel brush that I got at Joann's. This is not the top of the line for the brand. It's pretty reasonably priced, and I really like them. I think they range from $2 to maybe $5, and you can use your your Joann's coupons if you can't find them on sale. And I'm just brushing on a little hickory smoke ink to watercolor with. And then I'm going to use, for my background, I'm also wetting that, and I'm going to use some abandoned coral on that. Just very basic. I actually didn't really care for the way that this was turning out, so I would dry it, and then I'd put another layer of color on top of it, and I liked the way that that came out a lot better. It's true what they say. I watch the same card making videos that others do. If you don't like the way that your watercoloring is turning out, that means that it's not done yet. Just keep adding color and see how it turns out. And it turns out that most of the time that's pretty true. If you think it's ruined, keep going. Or if you think it's ruined, you have nothing to lose by continuing to just keep adding color. You never know if you're going to turn out something that's pretty cool. This wasn't done though. I decided I liked it, but it wasn't done, and I kept the masks on. What I'm going to do is take some gold ink. This is the Delicata Gold Shimmer ink, and I'm just going to squeeze some of it off onto an acrylic block here, and then I'm just going to flick it on. I just wanted a little sparkle, a little shimmer. Of course, I'm making the card for my husband, who wouldn't notice anyway. I thought about it after I did the card. I could probably just, print something out on my computer that just says "love you," and he would think that it's great. So he's a good supporter, but, as a straight man, he doesn't really notice the fun little details that we put into things. So I'm just giving it a good dry. And before I remove the masks. Now, I think I hold it up a little bit so that you can see, because I did heat emboss, or use my heat tool rather to dry that up a bit. Some of my masks started peeling up slightly as I was doing that, which wasn't a big deal because I was done coloring. But if you're going to continue to color after you're sticking your heat tool onto your paper that has that adhesive on it, you might want to stick it back down because it did peel up a little bit. So I do still have those little gaps in the handles of the cups. I didn't cut them out of the mask because I was too lazy and I knew I could just paint over it. So I just painted in there. And that's what I'm going to do really quick. It seemed to me a lot easier than trying to cut that part out of the mask. And now I'm going to Distress Oxide the image. I'm going to watercolor in the image. And I've got a nice brown shade here. And I ended up covering up 2 of these with some embossing powder for that whipped cream. So I probably didn't need to paint all of those, but I did anyway. And just skipping. And I do apologize for where I'm holding the actual coloring. I should have made an effort to put it a little bit more center onto my craft mat there so that it would have been more centered for the camera. Like I said though, it's not really my first instinct to think about the camera that's over me when I'm doing my crafts, and I'm usually doing other things at the same time. I am making, this video footage was filmed sometime in early September, I think, and it's well over a month later I'm doing the voiceover. So since then I've made more of an effort to adjust my camera positioning and pay better attention to things like that, but I still do slip up. Like I'm fond of saying, I'm not a professional. So I've watercolored my little cups here, just putting in some details, finishing up that last cup. I really do love Distress Oxides. I haven't yet invested in many of the last two releases. Well, we had one release, and then we had very quickly the last release came shortly thereafter, instead of with the usual delay there. Excuse me. I think I grabbed a couple of the blues, but other than that, I do love them though. So just again putting some final details on my coloring. Gonna hit it with my heat tool to dry it up. And in the kit we got some white puff embossing powder, which I thought would be really fun to make some dimensional embossed whipped cream on my drinks here. So I'm just stamping out with the whipped cream, and then I'm going to put some Versamark ink using the whipped cream stamp and just plop that on here there, and then I'm going to heat emboss with that ink. And it missed some, obviously, because of the way that the stamp is built for coloring and not as a solid image. I'm just coloring in the gaps a little bit with my Ranger Emboss It pen. And then I'm going to heat emboss that. And I'm not sure if I left the footage in or not. I guess we'll find out at the same time. But I do end up having to go over a couple of spots one more time with the Ranger Emboss It pen just to fill in a few little gaps. And then I heat emboss a second time with some more of that white powder. I'll be the first to admit that I don't love the way that it came out. If I was to try this technique again, I might try it differently. But I decided to go with it because I love the rest of the card. And I love my husband. So I need to pick out a sentiment. So I'm going to pick out my little sentiment. And I thought it would be fun to stamp the sentiment directly on one of the mugs. And since this recording, I since given the card to my husband, and he loved it. He loves coffee. I slipped it into his lunch bag one of the mornings that I prepared his lunch for work. He usually makes his own lunch for work. I will do occasionally. This just happened to be one of the days where I prepared the lunch, so I made sure to sneak the card in there for him. And oddly, the card is sitting in our bedroom on his nightstand. So I'm just matting the card up and getting it mounted to a card base. And there is my completed card. With plenty of room on the inside to write my little lovey-dovey messages to my husband. He's recently started a new job and working hard. Not that he hasn't before, but a little love and encouragement to him. And that is my masked card using the August Hero Arts stamp set. Thank you so much for watching, and take care. Bye!